If you're thinking about moving in 2026, even quietly, this video is for you. And I want to be very clear right away. This is not a you should buy video or a market update. It's not me telling you to decide anything. It's a pause. Because if your brain already feels full, adding pressure doesn't help. Clarity comes first. Everything else comes later. January is a strange month. It's quiet on the outside, but loud on the inside. There's this pressure to reset, reorganize, and redecide everything, even though life hasn't actually slowed down. So if you're sitting there thinking, why don't I feel ready? That's not a failure. Readiness doesn't come from calendars, it comes from capacity. And most people are already running on fumes in January. Most people think the hardest part of moving is the logistics, but that's not what I see. What I see is people who are already carrying a lot. Kids, schedules, work, finances, emotional responsibility. So when moving enters the picture, it doesn't feel exciting. It feels like one more thing you don't have room for. And then January shows up with this unspoken expectation that you should feel clear, motivated, and ready. If that's not you, you're not behind, you're human. Overwhelm rarely looks dramatic. It looks like opening listings and closing them, saving houses but feeling numb, saying we should talk about this and never doing it, wanting change but not wanting more decisions. That's not avoidance. That's a system asking for less input. This is where a lot of people accidentally make this harder than it needs to be. They start with the houses. Late night scrolling, saving listings, comparing, sending them to friends, and instead of feeling closer to clarity, they feel more overwhelmed because listings can't answer the real question you're actually asking. The place you actually need to start is here. How does life feel right now? Not what's wrong with your house, not what the market is doing, not what anyone else is buying. Ask yourself, where does my day feel the hardest? What feels heavy instead of supportive? Is it space, location, time, noise, commutes, or expectations? Most people don't want a new house. They just want some relief. And whenever someone tells me they feel stuck, I don't ask what houses they like. I ask, what's overwhelming you right now? And usually there's a pause because no one's asked them that yet. One thing I'm very intentional about in my work is pace. When people are overwhelmed, adding more options, usually it doesn't help. It creates more noise. So part of my process is slowing down enough that your brain can actually process what you're seeing. That means narrowing before expanding. It might mean pausing in between steps. That might mean focusing on what you actually are looking for instead of the volume. So my role is to filter information, not flood you with it. Because the goal isn't to see every single house out there, it's to recognize what feels right when it shows up. I had a client in the exact same spot. There was a deadline, her house had sold, her daughter's house had sold. We kind of had to find a place for them in time, and the stress was high. And all of a sudden, we were seeing everything, including listings that didn't match their checklist at all. And I remember telling them, this one doesn't actually fit like what you're looking for. And they were frustrated and a little bit mad at me because when you're anxious, a no can feel like someone's taking your options away. So I asked them to pause for a minute, hold on. And I said, something will come up. And 3 days later, the right one did come up, a listing that fit the things that actually matter to them, not just what panic was pushing towards. And I had said, imagine if you had bought the other one, you wouldn't have found this one. And later they told me that they were annoyed. I'd said no, but also relieved because that pause changed everything. And this is why I'm intentional about pace. My role isn't to show you everything. It's to help you think clearly when emotions are loud. And in real estate, they can get very loud. Sometimes that means waiting. Sometimes that means filtering. And sometimes that means saying, like, hey, this one doesn't fit. Let's hold on. Not to control the process, but to protect your decisions. So if you're feeling that urge to rush, to see everything, to decide right this second, that doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It means you care, but clarity doesn't come from panic. It comes from alignment. And if you want someone who will help you slow this down, even when it's uncomfortable, that's how I work. There's no pressure, no rushing, just clarity when it's actually time.